Today we will be talking about Pythagorean Theorem. So take out your notes, get ready, it's going to be exciting. Okay, so definition. Alright, the Pythagorean Theorem states that the square of the length of the hypotenuse of a right triangle equals the sum of the square of the legs. Alright, so pause the video if you need to, write this down. This is a very formal definition. It's a little wordy, but we're going to break down what this means. The big thing, Pythagorean theorem only works with right triangles. Sometimes students like to try to use the Pythagorean theorem for triangles that are not right triangles. A right triangle being a triangle with a 90-degree angle. Right? We denote right triangles with this little box in the corner. That means that that's a 90-degree angle and that is a right triangle. So just be mindful that this only works with right triangles. Don't try to use the Pythagorean theorem with other types of triangles. It does not apply. All right? So another way to think about the Pythagorean theorem besides that fancy pants definition. All right? If I can pick up my paper. Okay, here we have a right triangle. We label the two short sides of the right triangle as its legs. And typically we use the letter A for one of the legs and the letter B for the second leg. All right? And then the longest side of the triangle is called the hypotenuse. And we label that with the letter C. And we're going to get a formal definition for the hypotenuse in a second. All right? But just so you know, if I ask you what's the leg of the triangle, it's one of the short sides. All right? And so the formula for Pythagorean theorem, basically the formula that goes along with the definition I just gave you, is that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So if we take this leg and square it, and then we add it to this leg squared, we'll get the hypotenuse squared. Kind of cool. It always works. All right, before we do some examples, I want to give you a definition for hypotenuse. All right, the hypotenuse is always the triangle side opposite the right angle, and it is always the longest side. So if you were to, let me pull this back. If you were to locate your right angle and just kind of draw an arrow out, your right angle would always be pointing. Imagine this is a little arrow. All right, it's always pointing to your hypotenuse. Right, so it's always the side opposite your right angle, if this were a little arrow. And your hypotenuse is always, always, always going to be the longest side of your triangle. That's something to keep in mind as you're going through these problems. If your hypotenuse is not the longest side, double check your work. You're probably doing something incorrect. All right, so the hypotenuse should be the longest side. Let's do some examples. All right, this first one I have up here. We're given the two legs of our triangle, 3 inches and 4 inches, and we need to find our missing side. All right, we are missing our hypotenuse, that longest side of our triangle, and it's labeled as C commonly. All right, that's C side. All right, because we're looking for our hypotenuse, we're hoping our answer is bigger than 3 and 4. All right, the hypotenuse should be the longest side of the triangle, so just use that as a mental check. Right, hypotenuse should be longest. So our formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right, it does not matter which of your legs you make a or b. All right, but we need to take our two leg measurements and plug them in for a and b. So I'm going to make a our 3, get that from here, plus, and I'll make b our 4, which we get from there, and that equals c squared. All right, let's find the exponents of our numbers. 3 squared is 9 plus, and then 4 squared, 4 times 4 is 16. And that still equals c squared. Let's add our numbers together. 9 plus 16, I'm going to kind of pop up here. 9 plus 16 is 25. Equals c squared. Now, a lot of people get to this point and they stop and they say that their answer is 25, but you have to be very careful 25 is not c, 25 is c squared. We need to figure out what c is, not c squared. So to do that, to undo c squared, we square root it. All right, and what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So c is actually going to equal the square root of 25, which is 5. And then when you write your final answer, make sure you include your units. That triangle was measured in inches, so our final answer is 5 inches. All right, good. I'm going to erase this to create some more space on the board so we can do our second example, but if you need to, pause the video and make sure you get that first example written down. And then we'll angle this. All right, our next example, we have a triangle with, give me a minute. Right, little on-air mistake. Please make the hypotenuse 12 centimeters, all right? So we're given a triangle, a right triangle. It's still a right triangle even though it's kind of upside down, all right? The orientation of our triangle doesn't matter. We still have a right angle, right? Notice though, in this one we're given the hypotenuse as 12, okay? We're given a leg of 8 centimeters and a hypotenuse of 12 centimeters, and our missing side is actually one of our legs, right, which I'm going to label as B. Our hypotenuse is always our C value, and so we want our missing leg to be our B value. So again, we're going to use that formula, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. All right, let's take the leg we know and the hypotenuse and plug it into the formula. So we'll make our A the 8. We don't know what our second leg is, that's what we're looking for. And that's going to equal our hypotenuse squared, or our C, so 12 squared. All right, this one's a little different from last time because we're missing a leg. All right, square your numbers. A squared is, or 8 squared, excuse me, is 64 plus B squared equals, and then 12 squared is 144. All right, now we have to solve for B. To solve for B, let's get that B squared by itself. We do that by subtracting 64 from both sides. Okay, I'm going to move up here, create some more room. Subtracting 64 from this side, we're left with our B squared. All right, and then 144 minus 64 is going to be 80. All right, now again, be very careful. Our B does not equal 80, our B squared equals 80, and so we need to figure out what B is, and we do that by square rooting both sides. If we take the square root of B squared, we're left with B. And then the square root of 80. All right, that one doesn't work out so well, so you're going to need to use a calculator for this. All right, but you would find the square root of 80 on your calculator, and it should come out to approximately 8.94. All right, roughly rounded a little bit. All right, and then do not forget your units. This triangle was measured in centimeters. All right, so second example. I show you this one because sometimes our answer will not turn out super nicely. All right, if you're getting a weird decimal for your answer, it's not wrong, right? It happens. All right, we're going to talk more about this tomorrow. See you then. Bye.